Today, we're doing something a bit different, maybe even surprising. We're looking into the really detailed life and legacy of an American Pit Bull Terrier named Giroux Ch Booger.
Mm-hmm. It's quite something, isn't it? The level of documentation you sometimes find for animals in these breed histories. Really fascinating stuff.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this so compelling. We're going to unpack Booger's story today, from him being just a house dog initially to this unexpected career as a so-called match dog, and then maybe most importantly, his impact as a sire.
Exactly. The information we're drawing on comes from a source called APBT Info, which is all about the history of this particular breed.
Right, and our mission really is to pull out the key details from this account. Help you understand what made this dog, Booger, such a notable figure within his specific lineage.
Okay, so to really get a handle on Booger's story, we need to start at the beginning. He was born November 27, 1978, bred by Dennis McNeil and Stan Duke.
And I'm pretty young, right? 6 weeks old.
Yeah, just 6 weeks. He goes to live with Geatan Dinelle and becomes basically a house dog.
A house dog. But the source uses this phrase that he started and never stopped at only 6 months old. That kind of hints at something more, doesn't it? Even back then.
It really does. It suggests this inherent intensity. And what's really interesting is the sort of contradiction in how he's described early on.
Oh, so?
Well, the record calls him very strong with a very hard bite. Okay, you might expect that. But then it also says he was well-behaved and a good watchdog.
Right. So strong, protective, but manageable.
Yeah.
In the house, at least.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
But then there's this other side. The source immediately follows up with, when you walked him, he was always looking for trouble and never tried to take a bone away from him.
Ah, okay. So the well-behaved house dog had limits. That paints a picture of a pretty powerful underlying nature, not just a pet.
Definitely not. That strong drive, that inherent nature, it really sets the stage for the next part of his life. Things changed for him in 1982 when he was bought by Alan Waldman.
Okay, new owner. And before this, the source says he was rolled. What does that mean exactly?
Right. Rolled generally meant a sort of preliminary test or sparring session with another dog.
Yeah.
Common practice in that world at that time. But he hadn't been in a formal match yet.
Got it. So Waldman buys him. What happens then? This is where it gets really intense, I gather.
It does. This is where the game testing comes in.
Yeah.
The source describes this, this pivotal moment where Waldman tested him. It was apparently a really severe trial.
Who's severe?
The record says it almost cost him his life.
Wow.
Yeah. But despite the danger, or maybe because of it, this ordeal proved him to be as great as Dinelle said he was. It was like this extreme validation, almost through fire.
A near-fatal test that basically cemented his reputation for gameness, I suppose, that quality they valued.
Exactly, that resilience, that spirit. And after surviving that, he did go on to have a documented match career.
Okay, let's talk about those matches. What does the record show?
His first official one was May 1982 against a dog named Timothy Ian. It lasted 38 minutes. Then, November 82, his opponent was named Lefty. That one was shorter, 20 minutes.
And the third one, the source calls it his hardest match.
Yes, against Angelo and Ashton's Barron. That lasted 48 minutes. And what's really noted here is that apparently just 10 minutes in, his front end was down, injured, basically.
Down at 10 minutes, but he still won after 48.
He did. He went on to win.
That detail, winning after being significantly hurt early on, what does that tell you about what these records are trying to capture? It seems to be about more than just winning.
Oh, absolutely. It speaks directly to that concept of game we mentioned, that, unwavering determination to keep going, no matter the pain or disadvantage. These accounts often really focus on those moments of extreme endurance. They saw it as the ultimate measure of a dog's spirit.
Incredible resilience, for sure. But you mentioned earlier that his story takes another turn. His individual performance was remarkable, but maybe not his biggest impact.
That's right. And this is maybe the most fascinating part of his legacy. The source is very clear. His ability as a match dog was overshadowed by his ability to produce.
Overshadowed by his ability to produce, as in sire offspring.
Exactly. His true lasting impact wasn't actually in the ring himself, but in the quality of the dogs he sired. It's kind of an unexpected twist, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Performance versus genetic contribution.
That is interesting. So he became more important as a stud dog. What do we know about his breeding success?
Yeah, the numbers are pretty striking, especially considering he had about 12 breedings total. And only about half of those actually resulted in litters, so maybe 6 litters.
Okay, not a huge number.
Not huge at all. But from those few litters, he produced a really impressive list of winners.
Like who?
Well, there was Giroux Ch Booger, the Garler. The Jesse's means grand champion, so a dog with multiple wins against other champions. Booger was out of a female named Scarlet.
Okay, Grand Champion Booger.
Then out of another female, Losco's Colleen Rom. The Rom means Register of Merit. Given to dogs who produce multiple champions out of her, came CH's Coco Stanley, Crush, and Striker. Ch, meaning champion.
Wow, 3 champions from 1 litter.
Seems that way, or at least from that dam. Plus, he sired B&W's CH's Spice and Jolly Joker. And on top of that, the source mentions numerous 1- and 2-time winners.
That's a pretty incredible track record from only about 6 litters.
It really is. It highlights how certain individuals can have this outsized genetic influence on a breed.
And having these detailed records tracking progeny like this, it really helps you understand how lineages develop and why certain names keep appearing.
Precisely. It lets you trace the impact. It shows how specific traits, valued traits in this context, were passed down and concentrated through key individuals like Booger. It's not just about his own auctions, but his enduring genetic footprint.
Now, before we wrap up, it's really important we touch on the source again. APBT, IMFO, they are very explicit, and we need to be too.
Absolutely crucial.
They state clearly, the content on this site is for historical and educational purposes only and does not promote or endorse dogfighting in any form. And we completely respect and adhere to that. Our focus here is purely on the historical biography presented.
Exactly. We're looking at the information provided as a historical document, understanding the context of the time and the breed's history. Nothing more.
Right. So, recapping Booger's life. It's quite a journey. From this intense house dog with that sort of dual nature.
Formidable, but also managed, at least for a while.
Through that incredibly harsh game test that proved his resilience.
Yeah, that near-death experience that kind of defined him in that world.
To ultimately becoming this really significant sire whose genetic legacy actually surpassed his own fighting record.
That's the core of it. It's a story about resilience, about inherent traits, and about how legacy can sometimes take an unexpected form in this case, through offspring.
The key takeaways for you listening are really those surprising elements, aren't they? That complex temperament early on, the severity of the test that defined him, and then the twist, his biggest contribution being genetic.
Yeah, those aha moments in his story. It really makes you think about how these histories are constructed and what they emphasize.
So maybe the final thought for you is this. What does this kind of meticulous record keeping about an animal, especially one valued for such, intense and specific qualities, tell us about human interests, our fascination with pedigree, with performance, with trying to understand and even control the traits passed down generations?
And how do we, looking back now, navigate these complex histories? Histories that involve practices we now condemn, but which are documented as part of this animal's recorded life and significance within its specific community at that time. It raises some interesting questions about interpreting the past.